Global launch tier list, we've got a brand new rate up banner tomorrow, and we're assuming it's gonna be Merlin. We had Merlin a few weeks ago in early access. Right after that, we had Bedivere. They're probably gonna repeat that. If you're starting out or if you're gonna re-roll, make sure you always summon on that rate up banner. Try to get Merlin, he's gonna help your account out, and then save up for Bedivere. He is the most cracked hero in this whole entire game. I'm just gonna put him up at S tier. His damage is somewhere around 100. Everybody else's damage in the game is throttling around 20. He is that broken. I don't want to get into whether it's healthy for the game or not, but Bedivere. Always go for Bedivere for your DPS. He's in so many of my teams. He's in almost every single one of my teams except for a team where it just won't work to have raw pure DPS. We need to have damage over time. This is down below. This is a tier list spreadsheet that I kind of need to update, but these are all my teams I'm using right now at in-game. We've got videos and write-ups in our Discord on all these bosses, and of course, I'll be putting more out all the time, so make sure you subscribe. All right, let's get right into this. The second best hero is given to us for free. Whenever you get to the castle, you're gonna do a 10 pull. Everybody gets Morgan, and she is pretty broken. She increases your overall damage, she removes buffs, she puts up these crazy debuffs, and it doesn't matter what weapon you use with her. She comes as flame, so she's knocking back the attack gauge. You can use her frost weapon, you can use her storm weapon, and she's just as powerful. She is used in every single team. The next S rated for in-game is Gillian. Now she can heal you, but not do a lot of healing. So she's really an in-game healer. If you get her early on, you're gonna feel like she's not working well. She's not really the best healer, but what she's there to do is knock back the attack gauge, increase our attack gauge, and then remove control effects on our team along with healing them. So later on, you'll use her. I've got a whole guide on the best healers coming out tomorrow, so you'll hear all about it in that video, but she is in fact S tier. So if you do get her, make sure you hold on to her, use her with another healer when you first start playing. Let's switch gears and go into the rares. A lot of people are going to be playing these rares as their main damage because they're not going to have Bedivere. She is without a doubt worth it. You're going to level up Kay. You're going to use her for her skill 2. We're going to use her in Pinvid, the very first dungeon, to make sure we can rank up our heroes. So she is worth using. We need her in a dungeon and she does high damage. Arthur, sadly, is not worth the investment. I'm going to put him down at A-. He does good damage. He even gets good crit rate buffs along with critical damage buffs when he zones in, but he's just not really needed for anything that we play. No dungeon. And he doesn't do the damage I feel that Kay does, since Kay can do it for a 2 vigor cost where he needs a 3 vigor cost in his storm relic to really be viable, along with a lot of books where Kay doesn't need all that, and we really need to utilize Kay for that first dungeon with Pinvid. Rosier, if you can get her flame relic, not her base relic that you summon her as, but if you can get her flame relic in the shop, she is worth it. Level her up and use her as your main damage dealer, then over K if you're able to get it, but both of these are phenomenal. Cormac, frost relic only. His other relics aren't that great, but if you get Cormac and again can find his frost relic in the shop, insane AoE. I've already done a video on him and it's crazy. Ardwin, I need to do a dedicated video on her. I've cleared so much content. I've controlled so many of the enemies with what she can do, where she can polymorph, and I've done insane damage because I have her fully skilled. And I've used her even at stage 10, going through like the Master of Death. She is a high damage dealer and she does do great control. She is worth it if you can skill her out. Bond got a big nerf. Would I play him over these 4 on the top? I don't think I would. Just with the way that he functions now, not getting as much damage based off of speed, I still think he's strong, especially if you have chivalry and you get that 100% additional critical damage. He's good, but I don't feel like he's better than these. So I'm going to put him down at A-, and there's nothing specific that we really have to have Bond for. Alcalon, this guy blocks healing, so we're going to use him in the bear fight, Aldry, and that's really it. So we're going to put him as niche because there's no other places I want to use him. We're going to put Niklaus as needs testing. So I'm going to leave him right here in this category. We need to test this guy, but I can tell you right now, he's not going to do crazy damage. I've already got him skilled up on a skill 2, and his skill 2 will not hit the same target multiple times. He's got his uses, and he's going to be really fun probably in the Forbidden Dungeon, but nothing you need to focus on right now. We get Anguish. He puts up dots, damage over times that we need to apply on Gorgos. This is a dungeon where we get experience and we get gold, and he can be used there, but as far as anything else, he's not good. Anguish is just not good anymore. He was great in beta, not now. Baldwin. I'm going to put Baldwin up in A, maybe even S, because Baldwin can function like Guinevere whenever we do the Crom fight. He applies abnormal status immunity on a second passive, and if you max it out, it'll go to 2 other allies. That blocks Crom from eating them. He's got some other moves, and on my free-to-play account, I'm going to be leveling him up as my main support. Clementine's a great healer. I'm going to put her up in A. If you don't have her Chivalry 8, you don't have to worry about her falling asleep, and she's going to heal much more often. If you want to use her to knock back the attack gauge of the enemy, you'll get up to Chivalry 8. You'll start using her more toward that. But right now, early game, Clementine is a great healer. I would go with Sarah, though. Sarah is in so many of my teams because she has a passive ability to block the enemy getting buffs on them. And I use that quite often. I don't even use her as my main healer. I just use her to go in and hit with her skill 1, block them from getting buffs, and I bring in another healer with her, like Clementine or Torin is really who I bring in. She is free. You get her day 1. If you get 2 additional copies of her, she'll be able to do a recovery over time on your team, plus give your team increased defense. I've used her along with Sarah in so many teams. If you go back here and look through this list, it just makes it so I can push content normally I couldn't get through. Isolde's not a great healer. I'm going to put her as niche because she can apply dots, she can remove dots, and she can heal you, but really she's used for Gorgos. That's the only spot I've seen her so far, unless there's other content coming that's going to be damage over time heavy, to where we get a lot of dots on us and we need her to heal us and remove those. Then we'll use her in that content. Frederick wants to be a healer. He comes to us for free with that 10 summon where we get Morgan right when we start playing, but don't use him. I'm going to put him down here as buff, please. His heals aren't great. Even when you have his C8, we get a little additional healing plus a buff. Then it's decent. That's Chivalry 8. That's a lot of additional copies of Frederick, and it's just not worth playing. We get her for free right when we start playing. You're going to get some other ones to get some heals in there. You just do not need to play Frederick. Gareth is a control unit. We can use her in the Forbidden Dungeon. I just don't know where else we're going to use her. I don't see people using her in PvP, and I don't see her using her for any dungeon. That might change later on, but I'm going to put her down at needs more testing. She's got some really cool abilities with high chivalry where we can do great debuffs along with damage based off of her max HP to enemies that are immune to abnormal status effects. That's what she does. She likes to bind people, stun people. Those are called abnormal status effects. And when she can't do that, when you have abnormal status effect immunity, like a boss would, she can do a lot of other cool things. And I need to test her out to see if she's worth bringing her in some of these dungeons. We've got Boars. Boars needs testing as well. I don't think he's going to be a high damage dealer. He's going to be something to where we provoke people. I don't know. We're just going to have to do testing with him. Same with Urians. This guy does counterattack. He even gives counterattack to your whole entire team, but I haven't seen an area to where we need that. So we're just going to have to test it and see what he can do. Kryden, we need to test her because she can extend abnormal status immunity with her Frost Relic. AoE hit, and if there's an abnormal status immunity on there, she will extend it for 1 turn. So you come in there with Merlin, you do AoE freeze, you get a whole bunch of freeze, and then she's going to just keep extending it. She goes after he goes. If we can pay the vigor cost. Hers is a 3 vigor cost, Merlin's is a 3 vigor cost, but if we just start extending, if everybody's frozen, or stunned or wrapped up somehow, and she just keeps extending it, that's going to be really strong. I got to level mine up and see what we can do. Plus, she does additional damage to people that are hit by abnormal status immunity, which are all those control abilities. It might be really fun to play her in the Forbidden Dungeon, especially if they add more floors. Ralph is another rare that I need to test out. I have not seen anything special done with Ralph yet, but that could change once we start playing. Global launch, all of you are playing. We might see something cool come out of this guy, but right now we still don't use him for any dungeon that we have or even in PvP. Anya, the Queen of the Fae, is support, and she comes to us as Frost. With that, we get counterattack, we get additional damage when we crit, and she's got a crit rate lead. 20% additional crit rate if you need it. I've used her with, of course, Bedivere to get even more damage out of Bedivere, and I've used her for her counterattack up against Pinvid, one of the first bosses we fight, the big boar, so that we can take down those barriers, but she is still pretty niche. Now her flame relic I think has a lot more uses if you're lucky enough to get that, but we'll cover all this in separate videos. Right now we're just going to put her at niche because if you get her, you don't need to focus. and leveling her up. She's not going to get you through content. She's not going to really be somebody that you want to put a lot of resources into right away. Same with this girl. Buff this girl. Oh, man. She just cannot do anywhere near the damage that Bedivere does. No one can, but still, she's a legendary Clarissan, and she just, to me, is sad. She was that way in beta, though. It's not like this is new. She was that way in beta. Claudus. I believe Claudus is going to be really good in other things besides Tars. He's the cat boss that we fight, and we need to knock back his attack gauge. She gives herself increased speed, but she can give that to her whole team with enough chivalry. Additional copies of her put into her chivalry. Whenever she gets that speed increase on herself, she can actually get it to the whole entire team. She can do a lot of fun stuff. I think later on, we're going to start seeing her in other teams to knock back the attack gauge. If we're not using this guy right here that we get for free from Arena, and I can't remember his name. Let's put those two at the back. Can't remember their names. All right, let's move on to Gawain, another legendary that's supposed to be the AoE legendary of King Arthur Legends Rise, but he is not. He needs a buff. Everybody needs a buff in damage. Netmarble, if you're watching this, any damage dealer that you see here, they all need a buff. It's sad that we play this one guy to do everything. It's not supposed to be that way. Can he be the highest damage dealer? Sure, he could be 10% higher than everybody else or 20% higher, but he doesn't need to be like 200% higher than every single character. It just doesn't make the game fun. Sorry, everyone. So Gawain needs a buff. We'll put him down here as a buff. We got Guinevere. She's pretty niche too. She is really cool because she makes it so Crom, this big worm, does not eat your team. If you're playing the game right now and you get to 10-7 on normal and you see this worm eat your whole entire team and you're wondering how to get past that easily, use her. If you have Guinevere, use her. Outside of that, she really doesn't have a lot of uses, but there are some fun things we can do with her, so we'll put her as niche. I think Lancelot is A. Maybe, no, not S. I'm going to put him at A. He's got a speed lead. He could do dots. He can do a really solid stun. He could even increase his overall damage. I think he's really solid. I believe that if I put a lot into him, like if I leveled up his skills, maybe his passives, which I don't think his passives are that cool, he might actually be somewhere in S tier. But as far as all the dungeons that we could use him in, that we currently play, he's not S tier. Like we just don't use him that much, but he is a solid hero. So as far as damage goes, like if you had Lancelot and you wanted to focus on him, but it costs a lot more to level up your legendaries than it does all these other rares, you could focus a bit on Lancelot. I would still stick with K. I would stick with Fire, Flame, Rosier. I would stick with Frost, Cormac. Arduin, you just have to skill up that skill 2. Once you have that skill 2 up, she's pretty massive along with that Chivalry 8 if you ever get there, so she counterattacks using that skill 2. It's a lot of fun. Lot is very niche as well. People kept saying Lot was going to be really good for the Forbidden Dungeon. I used him on one floor just to see if he'd work out well. I didn't even need him. I don't need Lot for the Forbidden Dungeon. He's just not currently a great hero. He's got some uses, but honestly, I feel like he needs a buff. He definitely needs a buff in his overall damage. It doesn't matter what he's doing to help out the team. He needs a buff in his damage just like everybody else. If he was hitting hard and doing what he does right now, then we could use him in other areas. Okay, we've got another niche one, I believe. A lot of people say that they love playing Sigrun. I actually haven't played Sigrun that much. So educate me if you think Sigrun is a main tier hero. I don't know if you're not using her as your main damage dealer. I don't believe for her skill 3. You're using her to apply marks, which are good, but I don't think mandatory for any dungeon that we're running. Even the dungeon that's supposed to have it, the very first dragon, I feel like we can play without Sigrun, but a lot of people really liked her in the beginning. Let me know your thoughts on her now because I haven't been able to max her out and use her that much. I guess I'll put Tristan at A-. He definitely needs to be in buff, please. Tristan needs to do more damage based off of speed. He needs to hit with his passives regardless if protection is on the enemy or not. We use Tristan to beat the first boss with K, the Boar Pinvid, but this guy should do more. He should be better. He should have been the Bond that we had back in early access that got nerfed. You don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, but this guy should do more damage. He's a legendary that you get for free once you complete chapter 3. So push to chapter 3, beat chapter 3, you'll get him for free. And you're going to use him just for his skill 1. That way he puts slow speed on the enemy. He hits multiple times with his passives. He's good for that along with K. That's in the videos. You'll see that in the Pinvid videos. but he needs a buff. He can be good. I want him to be good. Buff this guy, please. More damage based off of speed, and let him do his abilities regardless if protect is up on the enemy. It just doesn't make any sense. We need justice for Tristan. Now, these two guys are legendary heroes that we get for free from the arena. This legendary hero, I believe, could be up in S tier, especially with his flame relic that you also can get for free from the clan shop. I got him already. I've got him in his win spec. I'm enjoying him, but I think the Fire Flame Relic, skill 3, maxed out with all that attack gauge increase for your whole entire team. Along with it, it boosts him too. It gives you like a 60% increase in your attack gauge maxed out, even himself. And he can keep spamming that over and over. I believe it's seriously broken. So we'll put him up at S tier. You guys let me know if that's warranted or not. This other guy that we can get from Arena, which I can't remember his name, Floris. This guy can do heal block, and you can use him on a bear fight that we do, Aldry. But if he's only good for that, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth leveling this guy up. But you don't have to level him up. Go look at our guides over in Discord. You just have to bring him in there. He does one ability. As long as he can stay alive at level 30 or 40, he can apply that debuff, and then he can die, and you can fight the bear with heal block on 100% uptime. As far as whatever else he does, I honestly don't know, so I would put him down at needs testing because I myself really don't know much about him. That's it for the global launch tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know if you have any questions down below. Come and join us in Discord again, day and night. We are there to help you out, and we've got all sorts of guides. There's going to be this adventure mode you do where you're going to ask questions, and believe me, you're going to want to be in this Discord because we've got all of those over there on a spreadsheet, and you just look at it, 2 seconds, you're done. You're going to love it. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you all in a video soon.